Something I realized in the last couple of days is that mastering does not need to take an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours. Like for example, I used to master some EDM stuff and it would take me at least an hour on the first master because I would use all the top of the line plugins. I would use the analog gear. I would, use the top of the line stuff, but still it would take me multiple takes, multiple hours, and it just felt like a waste of time. So let me show you guys something. Here's the track we just made yesterday. I took the mastering off of it. And what we're going to do is route this to a channel just to show you guys how fast mastering can be. So let's route this to one channel. It's a very bouncy type of beat. Okay, so what we're going to do now, this doesn't have vocals on it technically, but what we're going to do is load up the new BusyWorks Beats AI Mastering 3, and I'm just going to show you guys how fast mastering is. So instead of hours, let's just hit the AI master button right here. Just wait a little bit. You want to choose the loudest part of your song. Wait for it, and then boom. So here's before. If I wanted more detail, I could add the analog button here. So here's before. Let's wait for the drums to come back in. And we can make it louder if we want. Now personally, I wouldn't make it this loud because it's distorting. And it's like, that didn't take long. And if you really look at the back end, like under the advanced tabs, nothing's really even turned on except for the two limiters that we have. And we could even add a soft clipper for this genre because soft clipper is part of the sound. So we could even add the smart clip. But even without knowing this stuff, so it's gonna add like an edge to the sound once the drums come in. Okay, so it just depends on the genre if you guys are going for that, but mastering shouldn't take this long. I think what happens in hip hop is that we're using the master channel on FL Studio as both a mix channel and a master channel. So you'll see people have like 30 plugins on it sometimes, and it's just overkill. So let's mix this next track. Now first we need to give it some headroom, so let's turn this down. But like I said, mastering shouldn't take long. Like if mastering's taking long, here's what happens in mastering is that mastering pulls out all the details that were brushed over during the production process. All the little sounds with, room echo and badly recorded vocals and what else is in a mix, just muddied up bass that you didn't really pay attention to in 20 hertz. All that gets pulled up and you're like, wow, this is my mix. And then you start tweaking stuff on the master. And when you start adding plugins, now notice these plugin companies, they'll sell you one plugin that does this, another plugin that does that, it's like, why do you have 17 plugins to do the power of just one plugin? This one plugin is basically like 10 plugins in one. We don't need 1,001 plugins to get our sound. And to me, it's just them trying to milk us for every dollar they can, because why would I need just a plugin for just clipping when I could have clipping as a sub feature of my plugin? Does that make sense? So let's turn this on. Let's hit the AI master. And the CPU is not even very high. Now, if you want to dig under the hood, we have a transient limiter for focus on the transients, and we have another one focused on the overall. We have an LUFS target. If you guys know about LUFS, you can mess with that. We have references. So for example, you could reference your song on smartphone speakers. You can hear what it sounds like over car speakers. You can hear what it sounds like over streaming platforms. All right, you can hear what it sounds like with the MP3 format. So my point is, why do we need 17 plugins to do that? Like, that should be in one plugin, in my opinion. That's why I made this one plugin. And it doesn't take long. It shouldn't take long. Mastering does not need to take long. Anytime you're using, like I said, 1,001 plugins. Here's another myth, is that in mastering, you're not supposed to like distort it. I'm like, you understand, certain people want to add like triode saturation over their entire track, or like very specific pentode type harmonics. So sometimes, yeah, you're adding a texture to the song. You're not gonna just always go for transparency. That's not necessarily the case. Like this song here, let's turn down the input a little bit so that we can. All right, what we're gonna do is add a little crunch from some vintage samplers here. So let's turn this up, the vintage mode. This is also well paired with what's called the reel. And let me see, I think in here it's named, yeah, reel. So here's before. We can even add analog mode for more dimension. See how the song, if it pulls out, it doesn't just sound like it's there, it now has motion. So here's before. So mastering in that case is way more, or much more, than just turning up a limiter and turning up some clipping. We're going into saturation, we're going into some vintage modeling here under the tools. So don't be afraid to think of your entire mix as if you are, your entire mastering as if you are mixing. I think people get too scared and they try to be so transparent that the song doesn't have a vibe. So here's the same kind of vibe, 50 Cent. Same settings, sounds amazing on this beat. Here's before. So like I said, mastering shouldn't take long, you guys. Here's before. So that shouldn't take long. So I'm gonna show you guys another plugin. Now this plugin is built, now the way I'm gonna try to describe this is, if you have to get surgical and precise, then use these other plugins. But this plugin comes with its own sound as well. It's called the Mastering Compressor, the BusyWorks Beats Mastering Compressor. This will be included in what's called our mixing bundle at busyworksbeats.com/mixing bundle. So let's say you're going for a specific tone. For example, we're gonna push into it first. And then what we're gonna do is mess with the harmonic structure. So let's give it like a console vibe. Let's put it on auto release so that it can just catch the groove. Let's give it a little look ahead. And now we just gotta unlink, turn up the makeup gain. Now for this kind of genre, we can push into the sound. We've even used this on underground beats as well. So I'm not saying it's genre dependent, but whenever we have to be a little more precise with the compressor, we can go into a tool like this. Like for example, the AI mastering plugin doesn't really go deep into the compression. It just gives you like preset compressors that I think work well on pretty much everything. So you don't have to overthink compression, but having 10 plugins all in this one plugin was just getting a little too much. So I said, if people want to get precise, they can go over to the mastering compressor, built for mastering. Let's turn this up. Let's widen it out a little bit. So here's before. This is just the compressor. Now most people think compressors just turn stuff down. That's not the case. So here's before. Now you feel that analog movement. So by default, this is in parallel so that you don't have to overly think compressing. We're just going for movement. Whenever you feel the movement is when you guys can decide if it's enough compression. So don't just look at the meter, just listen for movement. Because like I said, this is in parallel. And from here, we can switch out the harmonic structure. Let's do something like where's it at? The half inch is cool. Real mode is cool for hip hop, acoustic hip hop. So we can turn up the volume here. So some harmonic structures are more dynamic than others. Again, here's before. This is just one compressor. So if you want to get more precise like that, then you can go back to the AI mastering and just turn this up. Again, this was originally built for AI vocals, specifically Suno music, because it was known for its like S and the shear stuff. So I said, why don't I make a plugin that cleans that up? And in doing that, I actually turned this into a very big project. It went from focusing on vocals to focusing on beats to then focusing on music in general. So this works on a lot of stuff. So that's what the clean knob is. That cleans up those frequencies that just build up on your mix. The bass is, like it says, turns up the bass and widens it out. This is good for like really thin AI music. It helps balance out that bass. And then you have the loud meter, which is what we're going to use now. Like I said, mastering does not need to be complicated, y'all. So here's before. So this is how you get the loudness out of it. So you saw we were hitting 0 from the mastering compressor, or almost 0. But we can get louder, and that's what the AI mastering tool is for in this case. It's built for mastering to get the loudness up, whereas the mastering compressor is built for a very specific surgical use case. And this is what I mean about mastering, is that we were taught that we need all these little surgical things stacked up to equal the mastering. But like, mastering does not need to be complicated unless you need to address something very specific. So it's back on. Can be crazy and turn this up louder. I'm just gonna do it for fun just to see what it sounds like. So now we have that wall of sound. Now would I push the kicks that hard? No, but some people may want to do that. So now it creates that wall of just consistent sound. Whereas before with just the compressor, it wasn't built to do that. It was built to give you that groove and that texture. So here's with the limiter, the mastering. So we can go louder than this. I don't want to blow you guys' speakers, but we're only at 30%. That's it. Would I ever push my song that loud? Probably not, because it turns the rounded kick into more of a square. I just wanted to show you guys, like, we were taught to focus on the surgical stuff as if that's the secret thing for mastering, when mastering is really about the broad stuff, not the surgical stuff. Here's another track here. So let's run just the AI mastering here. Let's hit the AI master button. And basically we'll listen to our song and figure out what it needs to add to get it loud. Now this is an already textured beat, so let's see what we can even add to it. See how the analog just do. You can really feel it coming through the speaker. Here's before. So I built this so you don't have to touch 1,001 things just to get a decent master. Now, if you want to be more precise and do like little tiny things, you can go into the advanced area. If you want to mess with the limiters, you can go into the limiter area. If you want to mess with the reference, you can click in here and just hear your song in different environments. Like a club venue. All right, so you can reference your stuff. So again, like I said, if you shouldn't have to dig so deep into the settings. That means whatever plugin you're using wasn't really built to get to a good target. Like this plugin was built to specifically get to a specific target. And through all of my logical thinking, I said, what's the most logical way to get to the desired outcome without having to tweak every single little thing about the mix? And that's what mastering should be. Something that's almost counterintuitive is when you learn mixing and mastering, at first you're going to think mixing requires like a billion plugins. You're going to see like 10 plugins per channel. And then you'll realize, wow, my mix sounds small and it sounds very compressed. And then you'll start removing plugins and then you'll use 2 plugins. And you're like, wait, why does 2 plugins sound better than 25 plugins? It's because the hard thing to teach is what not to do on your mix. It's really hard to teach because you really don't know until you push your song far enough. And it's so complicated that you have to untangle it. You basically have to start all over again. So it's really hard to teach that. I guess what I'm trying to show you guys is like there's an expertise in simple macro movements. Like for example, the AI mastering tool, you shouldn't need to touch 1,000 things to get a decent sound because the few things that it touches by default by just turning up the knob, they address the majority of what everything else does. And it does it at the right ratio. And what I'm saying is pro mixers and pro engineers, they understand you don't need Soothe, Pro Q3, you know, I'm trying to make up a chain, de-esser, you know, another reverb. People put on their vocal chain, a limiter. They have like 7,000 plugins on their vocals, for example. And it's like, all you really need is a compressor that adds, you know, nice texture and then an EQ. You don't need 25 plugins here unless you're trying to be creative with it. All right, so let's just show you guys on this last track here. Now I'm going to run it through the mastering compressor and let's just get the levels right. Now you do have the gain stage, so you can't just crank everything into everything. So let's turn on the link mode here. This will help you guys gain stage better. And then unlink and then turn up the... And let's switch out the mode here. So for the best, clearest, most clear harmonic structure, I think British is the best start. For more of a Ripley tone, go for real, go for half inch, and go for magnetic tape. Everything else is just depends on you guys' sound. Let's go for a real. Give that triode kind of bubbly tone. All right, now let's take this song and let's use the AI master, because now that it's going through the mastering compressor, it's at 0. It's almost at 0. So let's see what it does when it hears a lot of volume. All right, so we want to play it during the loudest part. My dumb self, it wasn't turned on. That was my bad. All right, we gotta let it listen again. So see how I pulled it up without like slamming out the volume? It still sounds the same, it's just louder. And you can feel the difference. When I turn this on and off, you guys will just feel the energy change. So I'm just gonna do it without telling you guys. And I want you to just listen without looking at the screen and just feel the energy difference. It's almost like without the AI mastering, you don't hear that pristine like high end that really pulls the presence out. So that's why I said this one button simplifies a very complex thing because it stacks up all the microscopic decisions and makes it very easy on a macro level. So even though this thing is three buttons, that doesn't take away from the fact that it's mastering. Like, I think people tend to think, like I said, that you need Pro Q4, then you need to add a gold clip, then you have to add L2, then you have to add another limiter, Pro L2, then you have to add, I don't know, what kind of compressor do people use? MD4. Then you got to add, like, it's like $7,000 worth of plugins. And it's like, why? Like, we can even clip this if we wanted to. I was wondering why the clipping wasn't making a sound. It's because the plugin is off. We got to do this again. My bad, y'all. Keep forgetting it's on bypass. So if you're going for that, like, really, I'll say trashy distortion, it comes from the underground type beats. You want to pull down the ceiling. And by trashy, I don't mean trash. I mean trashy in terms of the distortion type that it adds. It's very aggressive. So that's one thing you guys can mess with, is that smart clip. Then you have clean clip, which is a more rounded off clip. It's gonna give you more of a bubbly tone. So that's for people who are trying to take their mixes into more of the underground type sound. But yeah, there's a lot to show you guys. But my point is, you don't even have to go into the advanced tab to make your mix sound good on your master. So let's mess with this envelope shaper. It just pulls up some of those frequencies. I think it's almost too intense for this song. But again, like I said, when you start tweaking with stuff, you're like, do I really need all these little microscopic things? Because it depends on what you're using all these things for. That's why it's under the advanced tab. Like I said, the main knobs, the loud knob gets you right to your result right away. So I think we tend to overcomplicate mastering. I'm not going to make this video any longer. It's already long. I want to thank you guys for watching. It's Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. To learn more about the AI mastering tool, go to BusyWorksBeats.com/AI mastering. Peace out, guys.